he's got to hope he doesn't have another rough night ahead of him. I mean, if I were him, I'd worry about 2 fourth-place finishes tonight in Mississippi and Michigan. When you think about it, these are 2 states that John Kasich has been putting, he and Kasich are the ones, they basically are sharing from the same pool. And he could have 2 fourths tonight, and that's a brutal thing to do with a week to go to the
That would be incredibly brutal. Nick had a good concept, Joe. Nick had a concept as to why Rubio was considered a really good option. And why so many got behind him so early.
I think Rubio offered the chance for the party elite and the donor class to try to win the presidency without making changes on policy. Same policies, new wrapper, new messenger, but same policies, right? His tax plan was actually a huge capital gains tax cut to zero it out to nothing, which is a big tax cut for rich people, which is the same old policy plan. And it turned out that there's a policy problem for the party on trade, on entitlements, and some other issues.
National security. I mean, he is traditional. I mean, I think that's where Trump, I think, has surprised the most Republicans by being so far outside of the box on national security. Rubio was very traditional, and he's losing to Trump.
And Joe, Donald Trump's going to be joining us, I hear, in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, and Nicole, you can talk to this, the problem with the Republican Party over the past 30 years is they haven't, I'll say we haven't, developed a message that appeals to the working class Americans economically in a way that how Donald Trump's does. I mean, you look at the fact we talk about cutting capital gains taxes. That 10,000 people that are in the crowd cheering for Donald Trump, they are never going to get a capital gains cut because it doesn't apply. We talk about getting rid of the death tax. The death tax is not going to impact the 10,000 people in the crowd for Donald Trump. We talk about how great free trade deals are. Those free trade deals never trickle down to those 10,000 people in Donald Trump's crowd.
Sounds like Bernie Sanders.
Guess what? But herein lies the problem with the Republican Party. It never trickles down. Those people in Trump's crowds, those are all the ones that lost the jobs when they get moved to Mexico and elsewhere. The Republican donor class were the ones that got rich off of it because their capital moved overseas and they made higher profits. And you can say the same with national security.
Add Wall Street. We let the Democrats paint our side as being on the side of Wall Street. Our base doesn't benefit from the largesse of Wall Street. When Occupy Wall Street went on, the Democrats very cautiously and carefully eventually embraced it. We stayed silent. Our voters don't benefit from profits on Wall Street, but we allowed Democrats to paint the Republican Party as being a puppet of Wall Street when our voters don't benefit.
My frustration with this campaign is that there actually is a fascinating debate about conservatism that could be taking place inside the party. It's not happening. But if you really look at it, Trump and Cruz to a lesser extent, but you have sort of the old definition of conservatism, the old Taft definition, right, where you were like skeptical on trade deals, not so interventionist, a little tighter borders,
like
right?
Small
C conservative, and then Marco Rubio, sort of the modern definition of conservatism, which is a little more open when it comes to the issue of immigration, open on trade, and more interventionist, right? This whole idea that the fulcrum of the world is right here in the United States.
And trying to open up socially, Joe. There's that big tent, and that they talk about. And I think it's on fire. I really do. I think the whole thing's gone. It's just
social issues are a distraction to the party. Because it's missing the economic.
The whole conversation about conservatism.
It is. The definition of conservatism that Marco Rubio preaches is conservatism as defined by the donor class, as defined by the wealthiest Republicans. It is not the conservatism of the rank and file that are coming out to Trump's rallies. And to act like Donald Trump has invented something new is out of it shows their complete ignorance. These people have been around, all of the Ross Perot people of 92, they all voted for people like me in 94. Pat Buchanan in 96 had more of an impact on the future of the Republican Party than Bob Dole or anybody else. And that strain of populism stayed within the Republican Party for 20 years. And yet you kept getting people like George W. Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney. It was only a matter of time until the populists found a candidate they could rally around that didn't need donor class money. And that's the key, Nick Confessori. They didn't need donor class money. They could speak out against the trade deals that the donor class insisted on. They could speak out against, slashing tax cuts for the rich. And they didn't pay a political price. So they could go out and say, hey, what would it be like if we could deliver a populist message and not get punished by the donor class on Wall Street? Donald Trump tried it. Voila. He's doing extraordinarily well because of it.
That's right. I mean, look, he's Rick Santorum with tens of millions of dollars in free media and, 5 million Twitter followers, and the ability to kind of catalyze all of this on the campaign trail in a way that Mike Huckabee and Santorum could not in past campaigns. But it's a lot of the same message.
Chuck?
Well, no, it is. And I think the problem is the party only try to placate this working class wing of the party on social issues, right? Guns and abortion, right. And talk to them on social grounds. Never has had the policy conversation. Has sort of almost put blinders on with the policy conversation. To go to Nicole's point, Occupy Wall Street was woohoo, stayed away. Right. Democrats went ahead and grabbed it out of their own fear, I think, frankly, and knowing
it was real
because it was real, and they knew it much first, and the Republicans missed it.
Hey, Chuck, and how interesting that the Republicans said, okay, listen, we're going to have all of these trade deals and tax cuts that benefit our wealthiest donor class, but we'll give them the social issues. We'll give them abortion. Right. We'll give them gay marriage. We'll give them guns, and they'll vote for us. What we're finding this year is they'll even support a guy who says Planned Parenthood is good if he comes with an economic approach that they feel could actually help them more in the future.
Look, it's the children of Reagan Democrats. That's why Michigan today is so symbolically interesting and important, I think, to Donald Trump.